Hello there, this is Mr. Fingers and Talking Hands from Bad English Rex. Okay, I already told that I read Hanorok's book, and you can find this from Amazon. It's really it's a really good book, at least in Finnish. I'm pretty sure also in English. Hanorok's was big band for many bands that came in the 80s, like especially Guns N' Roses and Hanorok's and Mötley Crüe. There's also something you have to read this so you understand more. On Mötley Crüe movie they mention Hanorok's, but that goes. But yeah, read this book if you're into sleaze, rock and roll music, hair metal. They don't call themselves hair metal, but many of hair metal band took something from them. Look his hairs, even nowadays. But then I read this first, and then I bought this, and I read this already, and this was also amazing book. First I thought what he has to tell, because there was so much about Hanorok's. This was also a little bit Hanorok's, but also many other things, and this was done really. There's a Russell who died because of Mötley Crüe's Vince Neil, and this because there's inside the book, there's middle of the book, there's also pictures, and it's written really well and nicely. He talks really nicely, and he's like, he talks also about how he did use drugs, but he doesn't like he doesn't like glorify that. And like here, Alice Cooper, it's fun that first he's telling how he met Alice Cooper when he was a small kid and asked his autograph, and then he met him later, and then they became friends. And nowadays, often when Alice Cooper is in Finland, Michael Monroe is on stage. Well, Andy McCoy's book is really different. This I have read also. It's this is like history book, autograph, biograph book, and this is also, but like I got this from my parents, and my mother read at least some. I don't know, did she read it to end, because he was telling that she didn't like, because he's swearing on this book really much, and talking about drugs. But there's a different vibe when he talks about drugs and when he talks about it feels that he's a little bit glorifying it, at least I think so, and he's not glorifying it. Both are telling how they lost their friends, especially Michael Monroe, lead singer of Hanorok's, and Andy McCoy, guitarist of Hanorok's. And this is written like some other is written really well, and there's also comments from different people, of course. Many of them are from Michael Monroe, but this is written totally different. At first, this I read and I was like, this felt so well done, and after that I started to read this, and this was feeling so badly now. But afterwards, I kind of like this also, because it's like you can see here. Yeah, let's take here, and here's written the guy who's written this book, and maybe it feels that he read this to Andy McCoy, and Andy McCoy has commented it. And I'm Mr. Fingless, but to me Andy McCoy is speaking Finglish also. Well, same with Michael Monroe, but with his it's really bad because he talks Finnish, but some words are just English word, but they are Finglished. Like, let's take, I don't find right now, but there's many words that he use. There it mentions Tommy Lee, and this is about Russell's death, and he's using English word just between the Finnish. Also he's using maybe some Swedish words, because he's been living also in Sweden when he was young, like kid, and he has been living also in Sweden. They have been living in London and in the States. But this wasn't a name-dropping book, but this little bit felt that it was name-dropping, but it wasn't the reason for the book that he can drop this famous name, that who are his friends like Beef Taters and Johnny Thunders, who became really close friend to him, but he lost both of them. Actually, I don't know what's gonna happen, but there are released that Dead Boys are having a gig again, and Michael Monroe is singing in front of them, because I'm guessing that because Beef Taters, how you pronounce that name, I don't remember. Beef Taters. You know the guy from Lord of the New Church and Dead Boys. So they were really close friends. There are many pictures also with them. And on this book there is Demolition 24, and that's really good rock band. If you like rock music, you should listen that. And then there is Steve Peters. There it is. And there's some Japanese fan have made these pictures of Michael Monroe there, and he have been touring with different people. There's Slash and Michael Monroe, Axl and Michael Monroe. Actually, Michael Monroe was in one of, this is from that case. Axl was in Michael Monroe's music video Dead Jail or Rock and Roll, because of they were filming that in somewhere, and then they heard that Axl is coming, and Axl wanted to see Michael Monroe, he's big fan of, and then someone asked, would you like to be with Michael Monroe on this music video? And of course he wanted to be, because he's fan of Michael Monroe. At least was, like many people has been. The one I was surprised was when Michael Monroe was celebrating his birthday at one festival, and one of his band members said that let's go to see Slipknot. And Slipknot, all of them was like, whoa, it's Michael Monroe watching our gig. And that they were a fan of Michael Monroe, and that's a little bit surprising because it's totally different style that they are playing. But in 80s, Hannah Rocks 4 was for some people really big thing. They were so close to get big, but then Russell died and came drugs. About drugs I'm gonna tell more, but in here one comment was from some guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers, that he said that they were on same label, it was at CBS, and no one was focusing on them, because everyone was talking about my Hunter Rocks. Another thing here is interesting, that how many times Michael Monroe has had this really good point that he could get bigger, but he hasn't wanted to sell his soul. He has wanted to do his own way in everything. So that's fun. So yes, really good book, and really actually interesting to see another view. Andy McCoy is always saying here many times that why Michael Monroe is all the time on TV and TV shows. And yeah, interesting. And here, this about drugs, I was telling that I will tell the 2 steps from the move. Some might recognize that. Andy McCoy says, in the beginning it was rock and roll, sex and drugs, then came rock and roll, drugs and sex, and then came drugs, rock and roll and sex, or maybe even drugs, sex and rock and roll. So it started from music, but everything like kept on moving from different, and of course it's, you can't focus on music that's how well so much. So yeah, same time Cinderella story, but same time also sad story, how they were homeless guys in Stockholm when they moved to Sweden to start their career. Then they almost came big. I think Andy McCoy said that Up Around Bend was one of the most expensive music videos back then. I don't know. It is nice music video. Of course, if you watch it now, it's not as big as. But I understand there was a helicopter they were using, and they yeah, and this, and there's some really big house. I don't remember what its name, but really expensive. First gig that Michael Monroe had was a party of Hell's Angel, like solo gig, and he's playing saxophone. He plays everything. He's a different cover of different magazines. I think there's there's Kerrang. Yeah. Some, I don't remember, was it New York Post or what it was, said that his most influencing rock star, most unknown influencing rock star, because he's being important to different musicians. I like this. One reason I like this was that this was done really with this slash again. Michael Monroe toured also with Lemmy, and he also sang with Lemmy, and Lemmy on one song for him, and Lemmy sung also one song for him for a record. And Michael Monroe, at least when they have tour in London, Andy McCoy was there. Let's say Johnny Angel, Sebastian Bach, and they started to do a record with Sebastian Bach, and there are, I don't know, don't remember, has they really done a whole record of songs, but they made full songs, but they never was released. But there was Sebastian Bach, Nick Gabor, Jimmy Clark, Steve Conte, Alice Cooper, and Ian Hunter. Someone might recognize him. Slash. Good book. sadly thing is that it hasn't been released on English version, and same with this. But this has been, and if you are really into this, you should ask like a company that they would release it on also in English. In some interview, Michael Monroe said that this would be released also in English, or was it Japan? I don't remember. English or Japan, they're quite close to each other. But hey, this was quite a long interview. Hello, Michael Monroe, how are you? Well, I'm right now. That was my interview. And let's keep on that, and remember, people, read. That's good for you. And now I'm reading also one book that they mention Hanoi Rocks after 60 pages. But it's not finished book. What it is? You can guess. Who will guess? I will make a video for him or her. Bye bye.